Welcome to The Blinded Truth, a podcast where we uncover real stories about addiction, trauma, healing, and other life-defining moments. I'm your host, Destiny Vance, and I'm so grateful you joined us today. Today, I have an incredible guest by the name of Katie, who is the executive director of the Wellness Wagon, now called the Calm Clinic and Caravan, and also an acupuncturist. Katie, thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm really excited to be here. I love the concept of this podcast.
Yes, I'm excited too. Like when we were looking at scheduling and I had nobody so far for 30, and you sent over, I want to say it was one of your events that you were coming up doing. And I was like, oh my gosh, let me see if she would love to do the podcast. So I'm glad that you're able and was willing to come.
Yes, absolutely. Anytime I can spread the message about the Calm Clinic and Caravan, I say yes.
Yes, because we were just talking about, I don't think a lot of people know what the van was. Hence my mom. Thanks, Mom, I'm not going to say on the podcast what you said, but just know that she was not thinking that it was an acupuncture van. And I was like, that is crazy. But the name at first, Queen Pen, was something that even I didn't even know. And I just, I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't know. Like I was reading through your story that you sent, and at first I love your why. Okay, the why behind the deep motivation behind the choice, and the fact that this was all birthed from losing a close friend, Adam, in 2013, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you started offering $10 5-needle protocol acupuncture treatments in your waiting room. You didn't ask any questions, and if they couldn't pay, that was okay. Like that's service right there that a lot of people don't get. But when you're moving in your purpose, like in serving others, none of the other logistics matter, right?
Yes.
And then this 5-needle protocol was actually developed in the 1970s to combat heroin epidemic, which I don't think we talk about that. We talk about the heroin epidemic, but we don't talk about what methods we use, which is crazy to me. And then you asked a former coworker, Sue, who was a retired physician, to help you get your clinic started, and you named your first bus after her. I have a Sue in my life, and I love my Sue.
Sues are great.
Yeah, Sues are great. Listen, when we first started, sidebar, when me and her first started working, actually at Anderson Associates, I was like, I'm going to like you. And she was like, I'm going to like you too. So I love my Sue.
Yeah.
I love my Sue. And then in December 2021, the Wellness Rodeo, you started doing those events. And you would go to colleges, sheriff offices, car dealerships, city agencies, and you would offer this service all around to those agencies. And then in 2023, the Wellness Wagon became a 501c3. And in 2024, you sold to a private practice, which is now the Calm Clinic.
Yes.
Did I highlight everything?
Yes, a little bit. It's
a little bit.
How we started under my private practice, which was Queen Pen, yes, which was, that was a private acupuncture practice, but, people had to pay cash to come to that. And so that's why I started using the 5-needle protocol and offering it for $10 or free, whatever, whoever needed it. And then I sold Queen Pen, which now is Appalachian. It's owned by Zach Hurt, and it's Appalachian Integrative Health. And because I really wanted to focus on the bus and on making acupuncture more accessible to everybody so that everybody can do it. And the model of a cash-based practice, the reason why people do that, acupuncturists do that, is because for many acupuncture practices, billing insurance is really difficult for them. It's very expensive to do it. And, it's just time consuming and all this. So they become cash based. But then if you're cash based, a lot of people cannot get acupuncture. And also in Southwest Virginia, we don't have as much coverage for acupuncture as people in other states do, or people even in Northern Virginia. It's covered a little bit more than here. But we're working on that. We are working on trying to get that expanded. Right now it's going before the an insurance committee in the state legislature. And if you're interested in acupuncture, follow us on social media, and I'll keep you posted about that.
Yeah.
But so that's how it all started. Yes. And so in my practice, in my why, it did start with Adam. But it also, I have definitely, just like so many of us in Southwest Virginia, I have family members, I have friends, I have, and my patients, my private practice patients also, were so quietly suffering with their own addictions and coming to me and talking to me about it. And I just saw so much suffering, and I have seen acupuncture do amazing things for people. It is such a beautiful form of medicine that treats the body, the mind, and the soul. It treats everything. And so it was really maddening to me that not everybody could have access to that. So
yeah. And it's like a whole ecosystem of like treatment where it's just not like, we've always talked about, addiction is not treated in mental health. It's not even treated in one way. Like there's other avenues, and we just have to open people's minds up to what that looks like for, individual that's wanting to recover.
Yes.
But it's true, like what people don't know, they kind of like shy away from, and they're kind of like, oh, I don't think that. But if you don't know, you don't know.
Yes.
And we actually had a conversation about my own personal experience with acupuncture and how it, it just relaxed me. So it brightened like my eyes open to like, oh, when can I get this again? Because, I do suffer from mental health, and for me to be able to calm down and not have to take an anxiety med just from getting acupuncture, yeah, I'm down. Okay.
Yes.
So listen, and I love when you put it in the end where you was like, we believe in bringing holistic healing to the people who need it most, compassionately and consistently. And I think that's beautiful because you can just hear like, this is not a money-driven thing for you. You're all about the service and servicing the ones who are suffering. And that is what our city and our nation needs. It's not like, I'm a true believer that success comes by doing what you love. I was taught that at a very young age. My aunt taught me, like, you don't follow the money will follow you. Like, if you're doing what you love, it will come, like, you will be compensated. Yeah. And I truly believe that that's actually what you're doing. I want to go back to your why. And the first question I have for you is, what did discovering your why teach you about yourself, and how did it shape your vision for what healing could look like in your community?
I actually did the Simon Sinek exercises of finding your why. And my why is actually about empowering other people. So I think that what happened when I felt so disempowered and I watched so many people feel disempowered, it ignited this fire in me that I was like, I'm going to figure out how to do this. Like, I'm going to figure out how to make this accessible for so many people. So, oh my gosh, I got so into my answer. Tell me the question.
It's okay. And that's how I know you what you do. What did discovering your why teach you about yourself? And how did it shape your vision for what healing could look like in your community?
Okay, thanks. So first we'll do myself, and then we'll do my community.
Yeah.
So first in myself, I think that it did make a lot of sense for me, because I was like, oh my gosh, I was a teacher for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Then, so, that again is like this empowering young people. And then, with acupuncture, I mean, person by person, what acupuncture does is uses the body's own system to heal the body. So it works with the body. There's no medicine on the needles. It is so cool. So in that way, it is super empowering for people to be like, oh my gosh, my body can do this on its own. It just needs a little direction, And so that empowering, when I discovered that for myself, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to be involved with this. And then going into the community, I want that. I do see especially the older I get. I was born and raised in Roanoke, and I've been very lucky that I've been able to travel and I've seen other places. But I'm a Southwest Virginia girl,
Yes,
and
okay.
the older I get, I kind of do see the disadvantage, the disadvantages that we do have. I feel like we are often ignored in the in legislatively, that we are ignored, and I that disempowerment, to me, I was like, I need to go out into the world and teach people that they are powerful, no matter where you are. If you are unhoused, acupuncture can show you still have this power within you, and if you are addicted, you still have this power within you. If you are, financially insecure, you still have this power within you. And even though it might be only the power to reset your system for 24 hours, it's in there. And so because I do think that, taking that to, this treatment was actually started in revolution. I mean, it really was. It was, so I'm an acupuncturist. I went to school 4 years postgraduate to learn how to do acupuncture for the whole body. But this treatment is 5 points in each ear. It was started in the 70s to help people get off heroin, but it was started by the Young Lords, the Black Panthers, Black Liberation Army. Matula Shakur was a real leader in this. Matula Shakur, who was a political prisoner in the United States and not released until, I wish I knew the exact date. I think it was in the 2020, but he had compassionate release. But he became an acupuncturist out of, this feeling like to empower his community through healthcare. And so what happened was members of these organizations came together because they saw how Black and brown people in the Bronx were suffering from heroin addiction, and methadone, which I'm not anti-methadone, but just like they just felt like they were like, something from the people needs to come in and lift people up.
Yeah.
So they took over a hospital, the Lincoln Detox, and created the Lincoln Detox Center. And in that time, they created this treatment, these 5 points, these 5 points that come together. They were helped by a physician named Dr. Michael Smith. But Matula Shakur was a real leader in this. And I just read a book where they just talked about how big his heart was. He did it for love. He did it love of his community, love of everyone. I mean, it wasn't just like a Black, brown, white. He was like, everyone should have access to this. And so what we are doing is trying to carry that message on with these 5 points, and they've made it very simple so that you didn't have to go to acupuncture school to learn these points. In Virginia, we're very lucky. A couple of years ago, we had a bill passed where you could expand this not this treatment, but you could expand who could give this treatment. So now everybody can be trained.
Yeah.
If you are a part of an organization that is dealing with people who are struggling, you can do this. If you work in an office where you feel like people are very stressed and you want to be able to provide this, you can do this because it's just 5 points in each ear. And it's about love, but it's also about revolution. It's about giving the power back to the people.
And I think that's so important, like giving someone back their power, because at some point, something or someone took that power away.
Yep.
And you have so many people that they feel hopeless. They feel powerless. And, as a peer, that's my mission, is like letting you know, like, no, you can advocate for yourself. And if you can't advocate for yourself, call me.
Yes.
I don't have a problem going to the doctors with you. I don't have a problem speaking up for you and showing you that it's a way to, conduct it and do it. So that gives you a little bit of power back, you know? And I think everybody needs just a little bit of that. You think of like moms or anyone who's been in domestic violence relationships. They're just trying what they can to get back that little bit of power. And if anytime it feels like they don't have that power, they, feel helpless, or they go back into that state. And like, who would have thought in the 1970s that's what they don't talk about.
Yes.
They talk about everything else.
Yes. Yep.
But that.
Yes. I mean, this was a huge community rising up to saying we are taking back control of our healthcare in this sense. But also it was a lot about educating, citizen education on how people could make change, how people could, but first they needed some support. And so helping people get off heroin, but by members of their community. It's so much. I was talking to my husband about that, about how it's so much like the peer recovery services or 12-step groups where they, it's how churches also do. Like there's so many different successful community organizations where people of the community support people in the community.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do with the 5-Needle Protocol, is that we are training people in the community to provide for people in the community. And I am lucky. I mean, I am a person who is very privileged. I'm a white upper middle class woman. And so what I feel my role is, I was able to do this. I was able to create this bus, but this bus is not mine. It is for everybody.
Yeah.
And when we train people, we have them come work off the bus with us. So that again, it's a community thing.
Yeah. And what way, I think that's one way that they try to take away our power is education.
Yeah.
Because if what people don't know, how would they get better?
Yes.
If you don't educate them. So you mentioned losing Adam in 2013. How did Adam's passing shift your understanding of addiction, both personally and professionally?
Well, I actually have, I am no stranger to addiction. And I had been around the 12 steps a long time, since I was a teenager. My kid's dad is in recovery and has struggled with addiction. And I think that what happened with Adam is it was such a shock to me. I knew that he had struggled with addiction, but I think that how fast it happened, to me, the opioid epidemic and the use of opioids is such a speedy, sneaky snake, and when I have had members of my family that have been affected by that, or friends, watching them go from such a bright light to really moving into that fight survivalist. They become they can only operate out of their survival mind. That really was an eye-opener for me. And I think that Adam was the first. It was like when that happened with Adam, it was like my eye opened just a little slit, but you and I were talking about before is that I still was kind of like, Adam, well, he had addiction issues, it was still an us and them, but he was the first time that I was like, oh, this is like really getting big, this addiction seems to be really growing. And then he was just kind of the first thing, but then just so many people, so many things that I learned, that I read, that I met, that I lived, all of that. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is everyone, this is affecting everyone. And so I guess Adam was profound because he was the first eye-opener, but he was not, it has taken me a long time to be like, oh my gosh, this is all of us. This is everywhere. This is a social issue. This is not a person issue.
And I think what people don't understand is like once it hits close to home, because like I've always been around people who were suffering with addiction.
Mhm.
And then when my brother passed away, and he wasn't even like someone that was constantly using it. It was like a recreational thing, right? And so once it hit home, it was like a shock of not how did this happen to me? It was more of a shock of like, oh, this is really happening.
Yeah.
And it has no age criteria. Like no, like it's not defined to a certain culture, it's not defined to a certain age group, it's like everywhere. And then like once you see it, you can't unsee it, meaning you can start seeing in other people what other people are not seeing in that person.
Yes.
And you're like, I know what I'm talking about.
Yes. Yeah.
I know what I'm talking
Yes.
about.
Yeah.
And it's scary.
Yes. It is scary. And I think also when you start or you stop blaming the issues, whatever issues they are, on the people and have to take that wider view of like what is happening in our society that is not only allowing this to happen, but driving this. And that I think is very scary too. And, we've all learned, excuse me, that, we are powerless over addiction. That's what we learn all the time.
Yeah.
But we are not powerless
Nope.
over what is happening in our communities. And I think we feel like we are because things feel so big and out of control. But what I'm finding is with the Calm Clinic and Caravan, so we don't have a clinic yet, but we're hoping to open one in 2025. Excuse me, I got a cough. But we, the Calm Clinic and Caravan is that we do these wellness rodeos, and we bring together a lot of organizations. So I just send out an email. I'm like, here are the rodeos this month. We go into medically underserved communities or communities that just need a little support. And so we go to Newcastle. We have a stop at Melrose Library, and we go to the Rescue Mission once a month. We're there the same time every month. We do free acupuncture. But while we're there, we have partners like CHIP of Roanoke Valley and the United Way who have funded these stops, and the CHIP sends us with tons of supplies and resources to give out. We can sign families up for CHIP, but also the health department might be there, and they might be doing sexual health. We have resources for that, or Aetna might be there teaching people how, just informing people how to. They can sign people up for Medicaid. So we try to have a lot of like resources at our rodeos at one time, because that was another thing. People are like exhausted, like just trying to get to all the resources.
Yes.
If you are working or you don't have transportation, I mean, it is exhausting. And that was another thing. I saw, people in my life who were recovering, but oh my gosh, it was so hard. It was so hard. And so that was another motivator for me when I started the Calm Caravan, is that I was like, we got to get into communities, but not just us. Like, we need to partner. And that is one thing that I'm seeing, is that organizations are coming together to support each other, to make resources available to each other and make resources available to the people. And when we take that, so people come get 5-NP, 5-needle protocol, which what that treatment does is take the body out of fight or flight. Take your body out of fight or flight, it operates better. You can think more clearly. You can, a lot of times pain will go down. You don't have cravings for substances. So they come get a treatment from the Wellness Wagon, and then they're like, oh my gosh, but while I'm here, I can learn about signing up for Medicaid, and let me grab these condoms over here, and let me get these diapers over here, and let me sign up for CHIP. And, so they get all that taken care of. Now they might be able to have a little more brain space to think about the larger picture and how they can contribute to making the changes. But I mean, our culture is so overwhelmed by the things that we have to do and getting what we need, that nobody wants to do a bunch of like public service or write to their congressman or make all these changes because they are like just trying to survive.
Yeah.
So we're trying to help take people out of that.
Yeah. I think the frustrating part about helping individuals is that sometimes we also live in a community that don't want to help them.
Yes.
And I can remember working with reentry, and I have called many employers because you're telling me you hire felonies, and then I have my convicted felon come apply, and then you tell my client that you cannot hire him because of what's on his record. And I'm like, make this make sense to me.
Yes. Yeah.
How are they supposed to thrive? So you want them to get out.
Yeah.
And you want them to get a job. I have probation telling my client they have to get a job.
Yeah.
But they can't get a job because you saying you hire individuals with felonies. But you want to set a criteria of what kind of felonies. Or you pick and choose who you want to hire. And I'm like, how?
Yeah.
Are we supposed to have a community that thrives?
Yeah.
But you don't want to help them?
Yeah.
Or you set jobs out where the bus does not go, but you expect them to get there.
Yeah.
Oh, but you're hiring night shift.
Yes.
How is my client don't do well on night shift?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I have a client that is in recovery and night shift does not work well for him.
Yes.
I'm like, make this make sense to me.
Yes. Yeah. It is maddening. And I think that for me, like what we are trying to do, and I'm sure it sounds like kind of Pollyanna-ish, so naive, but we believe that, through the 5-needle protocol, what we are doing through compassionate care, through treating people like human beings, through empowering them, through calming their nervous systems, all of these things, that it's kind of like we're preparing them just to fight another day.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And because there is so much to battle against once you open your eyes in the morning, especially if you're suffering from substance use disorder, or if you do not have the resources you need to feed your family, or if you are working. I mean, who was I talking to the other day? They are like working 3 jobs, like it is. So yes, so in the most simple way, and it sounds so silly, but we are making change through compassionate care, and just like letting people be human beings, bringing them back into their bodies to be a human being so they can go back out and deal with that, which
on another day.
I know, which is so crazy.
Yeah. So you actually, hit on one of my questions I was going to ask you of how, the 5-needle protocol is such a powerful tool. But how do you help skeptics understand the impact of the modality, especially in underserved, communities? Because when I think of acupuncture, massages, even though those are not the same, chiropractors, I'm thinking, oh, that's money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't afford. I just went to my first massage ever, and I spent some money.
Yeah.
But how do you help other people understand, like, this is what we need to have in the underserved community?
Yes, that's a great question. So really, the way that we do it is word of mouth has been huge with the Calm Caravan. I mean, just people, and I need to give a shout out here. My office manager, Mike Holcomb, he when I was running my private practice, he really, for the first 2.5 years, he really ran the bus, and he built such a community of trust just by going out in the community and doing 5-needle protocol, and the word spread. And so he really was such a good ambassador for the bus. And when I sold my practice, he stayed on full time with Zach, who bought the practice. So it was a huge loss for the Calm Caravan, but he definitely left a great impression with the community. So Part of it is that we get skeptics all the time, but people are like, my friend told me to come do this. I do not believe in it, and so we make it available to everybody. But even if people don't want it, we're like, well, you can watch us give a treatment. You can ask us all these questions. It is the 5-needle protocol, but we also will say, if you just want one needle, because that's another part of the treatment, is teaching people to listen to their intuition, which we have really been taught to silence that internal voice. And so when you're working with people, is to say, okay, this is 5 points in each ear, but if you get to point 2 and you're like, I think I'm good, we're gonna honor that. We're gonna listen to that. And so I think that giving people choice, giving them information, but also giving them choice. We also have beads and seeds. So we can tape on these little magnetic beads on the points, and you can just get them and go. And so we do that. So it doesn't have to be acupuncture needles. It can be acupressure beads that we can put on. So what we really try to do is give people choice. And if people don't want it, that's okay. You can come get resources. Sometimes people come, they just want to talk to us. They want to tell us about, because it's acupuncture, they want to talk about their body pain. They have questions about like, what do you think about this? And so we do not diagnose because now I am an acupuncturist and I could diagnose, but I try to keep it simple. We just do 5 needles. We do 5 needles in each ear, and we know all the resources when you want something else. So we do. So sometimes we just listen to people or provide a place for them to sit. The bus has 2 tables in the back where people can lay down and 4 chairs on the inside. And so sometimes people will just come sit. They'll sit with a friend while their friend's getting it. And we don't make anybody do it that doesn't want to.
And that you said something that made me think too. That's also giving someone their power back, and that's listening to your inner voice, because, a lot of times with individuals in recovery, we don't trust our inner voice because that inner voice have told us to do some pretty stupid shit, if we're being honest. Yes. And so the fact that you're like, trust your gut, you're kind of like, to me, I'm like, girl, do you not know the stuff I used to do, trusting my gut? But that's giving them the power back to say, like, I can do this. Like, I can make good choices, and I can make the best choice for myself. And especially when it comes to my health.
Yes.
That is so powerful right there, because you're not telling them, well, 5 is what you need. You're like, well, how does that feel? Or what do you want to continue? Which is big for people who have been taken advantage of, or, they've been in vulnerable situations where they did not have that choice.
Yes.
Yes.
And I also think this is a little bit on a different vein, but I was thinking about this woman. We went to the Melrose Spring Festival, which was like so fun. And we were so busy all day. And so then we were at Melrose the next week at the library was our stop. And so we were at the library, and this woman came on, and she said, she was like, I did not want to get this treatment, but my friend told me I really should try it. She said, I have not had pain in 12 days.
Oh, wow.
And from that treatment, from just taking her body out of fight or flight, from just, and so it's kind of like, that's what makes people trust us, is that people are having good care, good results. And so, and that is what spreads the word.
Yeah. So you talked about that one instance. Has there ever been a moment where someone's transformation on the bus like deeply moved you or changed you?
Oh, I mean, acupuncture is not, it's not a miracle. It's not magic.
Right.
It is a physiological, biological, lots of stuff is going on. It is backed by science, blah, blah, blah. We've got all that. But we see miracles all the time. And it is, I trade with another acupuncturist. We treat each other. And even when we treat each other, we're like, oh my gosh, this medicine is so beautiful, And we do, so we go into businesses hire us to come in. The wellness rodeos are free. Businesses hire us to come in. We go do festivals. We do a lot of different parts of the community. But even at, I was at a festival. So I went to a recovery festival in West Virginia, and we did it off the bus. Oh my gosh, so fun. Healing Appalachia. It was so good. It was recovery driven. It was like so amazing. And the weight of grief from people coming on the bus, family members who were volunteering, who had lost people who were recovering, the weight of grief, you could feel it coming off people. And that was expected. But then on the next event we did was a yoga festival. And we did that. And the weight of grief at that yoga festival was the same, and the people putting needles in and people just allowing themselves to relax and cry. It was, I actually think at the yoga event, it was more people were so, had been holding so much in, and that happens. And then again, 2 weeks ago, I was downtown with the sheriff's office treating, on people who are unhoused, and the same, when you put the needle in, it's all these different connections of people having the same experience but feeling so separate. And so and that's another thing about being the way that we do acupuncture. It's community based. When we open our clinic, it will still be in a room, people experiencing this healing together, because we are sharing this experience together. And so that's another thing that happens on the bus. It's very community healing. Yeah. And we don't separate, even those examples were all separate. We treat the staff at the event. We treat passersby. We don't care. You're walking down the street, want to know what we're doing? Get on the bus. You're unhoused, get on the bus. You're in active addiction, get on the bus. But everybody's together. We don't separate it out.
Yeah. And to me, that's big, because I am someone that, from my past experiences, I don't allow myself to be in vulnerable situations like that. So if for me to come and allow someone to complete a service on me, I'm like, because when you've been through some of the things I've been through, I'm not going to let my guard down. I've always been taught you don't let your guard down. And so I have always been in that survival mode. So for me to actually get on your van that time when we was talking about, and like I said, I was stressed, I was to the max, and allow someone to, one, touch me, and two, be in a setting where I'm not in control. That to me was healing, because that was a step for me. And I'm pretty sure if my counselor was listening, she'll be like, oh girl, yes, because I am not that person.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're creating a space like we do on The Blinded Truth for healing, for individuals that are like me, and you're like, come on, you don't want to get it done, just sit and be in the space, because sometimes people just want to be in the space. They're where they're loved and they feel like this is calm for me.
Yeah.
I love it.
I do. I love it too. I love it. I love being a part of it. And all of our staff are, the buzz phrase, trauma-informed care, but we are all trained in trauma-informed care. And we assume that everyone has had trauma. And so we try to support that with compassionate care and providing a safe space where they can come and just have a moment.
Yeah. So you all are going out and providing all of this. What are we still missing as a system when we talk about accessibility?
Oh my God. Oh my gosh. We're going to have to have podcast number 2. Wow. I talked about the fact that insurance companies in Virginia A lot of them don't cover, Medicaid does not cover it. Medicare does not cover it. And so that's like a whole thing. So we do not have that. Acupuncture education to become an acupuncturist, actually, that isn't very accessible. It's pretty expensive. It is, and when you get out of school, if you are a super duper hustler, you can make pretty good money being an acupuncturist, but not a lot of acupuncturists don't make a lot of money. They really go into it because they love the medicine. So that part, I really wish that schools were more accessible, and I'm working on all this, y'all. But at schools, and that it was more insurance wise was more accessible. In Roanoke, what we are trying to do is open a community clinic that is pretty much like the bus, but it's a place where people can come, and that community clinic will be staffed by acupuncturists. And so I will be on the staff. We have another acupuncturist who is going to work with us, maybe two more. And so we would provide full acupuncture treatments in Roanoke. If you want to support the community acupuncture clinic, you can go to our webpage, and we're fundraising right now to get that started. Okay. That will be self-sustaining, within a year, because it's so popular. That will be a sliding scale fee. People can come in and pay $20 to $40 ish, and no questions asked. They just come pay and get a full acupuncture treatment. So that's what we can do. And then educate, just like educate people on acupuncture. And just when somebody says, that's weird, or we don't want that here, or that's not important, is just remind them that it is important. Health is very important.
It is. It's part of your wellness.
Yes. I know. And we want to do preventative health care, not just sick care. We want to be able to, when we open our clinic, right now we do a lot of sick care because we're working with populations who are under cared for. Right now, that is so many of our populations, up to burnt out healthcare workers, but we would like to be able to be in a position where we do preventative care. Come get acupuncture before you get sick.
So talking about prevention, which your story definitely sits at the heart of prevention. From your perspective, what does prevention mean beyond just Narcan or clean needles?
Oh,
am I hitting you?
I know. I mean, I just really, our society right now is so fractured. And, when we treat substance use disorder, people who suffer from addictions, from food to phone to porn to, drugs and alcohol, whatever it is.
Because everybody has an addiction.
Yes, I know. We're all headed in that direction. It is a heart. We treat the energetic heart, and for me, I just feel like our society needs to keep moving away from blaming the individual and moving towards working together for solutions that the people come up with, that the people who this is affecting, that we come up with. And so just continuing to move forward as a community to really look at what is going on in our healthcare system, what is going on, why is just childcare, all the things, minimum wage, all those things. This is why people's hearts are broken. And it's not going to get better until we start really trying to fix those, the heart of the nation.
Yeah. And I think it also goes back to what you said in your story, the why.
Yeah.
Stop looking at like what the person is doing and look at the why they are doing it. Everybody has a why.
Yep.
And I love the fact, that I can actually, I'm like this, I like I call myself a little FBI because I want to know like the underneath layers.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So you started using at the age of 12. What was the why?
Yeah.
Because I think if we look at the why, then we can better know the who.
Yes. Yes.
And then we can start to look at like,
Yeah.
okay. My favorite thing is when I do ACEs training and I get them to do the test.
Oh, yeah.
And I had one girl, she swore up and down she wouldn't I had no trauma. And I was like, okay, all right. And so when she did the test, I was like, what was your score? And she told me, and I was like, sometimes people don't realize they've been traumatized until they realize they've been traumatized.
Yeah.
Because it affects people differently.
Yes.
And then when I started going to counseling, I started connecting the dots like, oh, that's why I act like that.
Yes.
Oh, that's why I respond like that, because of the why.
Yes. Yes. And there is not always, but so many times there is a larger societal issue. And we're not gonna, we are powerless over people. That is right. But as a community, we can come together and be powerful in making the change. And I have seen that. I feel like we are a part of that change happening, but it is going to take all of us little small people to make that big change.
Yeah. So for someone that, you hold a lot of space for others, what do you do to sustain your own wellness?
Oh, that's a great question.
I get that question. They're like, you do all this stuff for other people. Destiny, how are you taking care of yourself? And I'm like, well, I might have brought a pair of shoes.
Which is pretty fun.
Yeah.
Very satisfying.
Yes.
I have a great dog that I wanted to name Dopamine because she makes us happy. So I have a great dog. I exercise multiple times a week. I walk my dog. I swim. I get acupuncture, of course. I meditate. I'm an old. Can I say shit? I'm an old shit. I'm an old shit meditator. Like I get my mind gets out of whack and then I'm like, oh shit, I better start meditating. So I meditate for a while and then things get better and then I stop.
Yeah.
And then I do it all over again. And I write. I have a Substack called Sassy Queen Mama. So I write. So I really do. I think after being in this position for so long, and actually my mom is pretty good. She is taught me, she's a person who serves, but also has taught me to take care of myself too. And that having a female role model like that has been really important to me. And I hope I have taught my daughter that and my son how to take care of themselves. Yeah. So those are and I have great friends. I have a wonderful husband. I have a really good life. And so it makes it easy for me to serve.
Yeah. Do you kind of know when that moment is coming up? Like for me, I know that maybe I need to take a self-care trip, or maybe it's time for, I say a happy meal. It's like cut up peppers with, it's nachos, but like, do you know when it's that time, or do you kind of like schedule it out before you hit that time?
That's a good question. Sometimes I know, like I was getting ready to go. I was on vacation last week, and the week before I was really stressed, which doesn't normally happen with the wellness, with the Calm Clinic and Caravan. But so when I was running my private practice, I was a single mom for most of that and super, super stressed. And once I sold that practice, I was like, I am never going to do that to myself again. Like I totally burned myself out. And so I have been very careful to, when I feel that amping up, I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? And I can also treat myself with the 5-needle protocol. And my daughter is trained in the 5-needle protocol. So, I definitely can get acupuncture whenever I want it.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. Like, I tell people, like, I have this kind of like this, and like this little small thing that I think God blessed me with. I have a illness that it's an invisible illness. And so that kind of like bumps me too. Like, girl, what are you doing? Because then my body starts doing this weird thing where it's like, hey, something is not right. You might want to take a nap.
Yeah.
Have you eaten today? And I have to so now I schedule my self-care days because I realize if I can schedule time for other people, I can schedule time for myself.
Yes. Yes.
And my mom is like, is that OCD? And I'm like, no, I have to do that. It's a must.
Yes.
Because if not, I won't do it. And then I'll get to that point where I'm sitting there and my kids are like, Mom has lost it.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. When my kids know that, that's what my daughter still, she's 18. She's like, oh, I remember grumpy mommy. That's but yes, me too. I don't want to. And I think as people who in the community are doing this work, we need to be examples for others. We do not have to, so many people, and especially women, have been taught to overdo at the expense of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to do that. And to be a good example and show, that we can thrive, we can get the work done, and we can still take care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. But I think it's hard because, like you said, we've been conditioned to be the people that don't say no.
Yes.
And I think that we feel like when we start, I had to learn that with my kids, and I would feel so bad sometimes when I'm sitting in the car and I'm eating something I didn't get them. And they're like, so we're eating leftovers? And I'm like, yes, you're eating leftovers. But then I was like, you know what? That's okay.
It is okay. It is okay.
It's okay. Because sometimes now, if my kids are listening, you did not hear this from me. But I'll take one of them individual and be like, hey, you want to go to the store? And that's their cue. They're like, oh, Mom's going to give me a snack. Where are we going, Mom? And they'll sit in the car, be like, now you got to eat that before you get in the house with your brother. And they're scuffling it down.
Yes.
And then I'll take the other way. And then they'll come back a week later. Mom took me to Chick-fil-A.
Oh,
and my other one's like, Mom took me to Zaxby's. And I'm like, stop it. But we have to do that.
We do have to do that.
And I'm teaching them to do that.
Yes, you are. And it is okay.
Yes.
I mean, to have boundaries, to put limits on things. I mean, that's the only way we're going to get all this. There's a lot of work to be done. And so that's the only way we're going to get it done is just by taking care of ourselves, putting out on some boundaries, but moving forward.
Now, before you had said that we have to find a way to start giving back their power. Do you feel like that is at what's the youngest age do you think? Because to me, I think as soon as they hit elementary, you start teaching them about boundaries and, saying no.
Yep.
I can remember my mom, I think she touched my niece's shoulder or something. And my niece said, don't touch me like that. And my mom said, excuse me? And I said, she has that right. But, I was growing up, kids were they were seen, but not heard.
Yes.
And you did not talk back. You spoke to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But now I think we're, as a society, are moving into with my kids, if my kids are not comfortable speaking to a certain adult because they get a certain vibe, I tell them that's okay.
Yes, me too.
So what would you say, how early would you say we should start teaching about maintaining that power?
Oh, always. And it is difficult. I mean, I would say as an adult who has had kids put their boundaries out on me, I'm always because I was raised, I'm Gen X, so I was raised very much like that, you have to hug people you don't want to hug, blah, blah, blah. So when somebody puts a boundary out, kids do, my first reaction is shock, but then I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like these Gen Zers, they are way better at it than we were and have been allowed to be that way. I mean, I would say from birth, because you have, taking it back to acupuncture and East Asian medicine, we have energetic boundaries. That feeling you feel when someone moves into your space, where you feel a little electrical, a little whatever. That's an energetic boundary. And so with some people, you have bigger ones, and some people, they can be smaller because, of course, there are people that you trust and you'll allow in. But we should always teach kids about that, about their, that this is real, that feeling is real, you know, and because if you don't teach them that that feeling is real and their gut feeling is real, then that voice of society, the voice of social media, the voice of the predator, the voice of whatever, the groomer, that becomes their inner voice. And what we want to teach them is that their inner voice is the real voice. Their inner energy is powerful.
Yeah. So in our closing question I have for you, the bus is becoming a brick and mortar clinic and expansion of the dream. What legacy do you hope the Calm Clinic and Caravan leaves behind in 10 to 20 years?
Oh, gosh. I really want people in Southwest Virginia to feel empowered and not taken advantage of. And I really want for healthcare in the United States to be compassionate. So those are my big ones. So in 20 years, I hope that we have multiple buses going out around these mountains.
Yes.
That we have, that we keep our clinic, that we have a thriving clinic that is just continuing to offer this compassionate, beautiful medicine and empowering people in their healthcare.
Yeah. Now, I know that I said that was the last question, but I have to ask. And I think this is what drew me to you when I first met you, the blue hair.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I was not a big hair dyeing person. And then over COVID, like so many people did, I grew my gray in. And I don't know what happened. I think after being so burned out for so long, and then I grew my gray hair in, and I just had this strong voice. It was like, I am not ready. I'm not ready for this. So instead of like doing something like just getting highlights, I was like, I'm going to go blue. But our bus is fuchsia. So that it kind of matches. We match each other.
Yeah. I love the platinum blonde, and I am trying to convince my cousin to just get it gray. And so every time I go into her shop, there's this one lady, she's like, you like that color? I'm hiding mine. I'm like, I ain't hiding it. Like, I've even got to the point where I'm like, this hair can fall out and I'll be bald and I will be totally fine. And because I'm just like, whatever. But I had to ask because I am a dye my hair girl. Like, I've had red, I've had purple, I have blue. And so when I did the blonde, people was like, you're really going the blonde. I was like, yes, I had to ask you.
Yes. I mean, I love it. There's part of me that feels like that part of me that was, just like a good girl. This is so crazy. This is too wild. But then there's the part of me that named my business Queen Pin.
Yes.
She is like, yes, you need blue hair.
Yes. And if it fits you, it fits the bus, everything.
Yes.
I want to thank you again, Katie, for taking the time to come and chat with me today. This was so much fun. And if you are in the Roanoke Valley and ever see the Wellness Wagon, hop in. I promise you, it's not no heebie-jeebie. Especially if you stressed, your girl got the acupuncture done and she was relieved, okay? One last question. What's the youngest age you will acupuncture someone?
Well, as an acupuncturist, I have given acupuncture to somebody as young as 4 months old. But on the bus, it's probably 16 and they have to have a parent's permission. But ear seeds, we can do those any age.
Well, hey, if you got your parents' permission, don't be going to get acupuncture like you go get tattoos and you got the tattoo artist that's going to tattoo. Right. Go see my girl Katie with the Wellness Wagon. And again, I thank you so much for coming and having this conversation. Again, my name is Desi and I am your host for today. And this is a wrap up. Thank you.